is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brian and I are finally doing our top 10 games of 2020. And what a year 2020 has been. As you can see, we are doing our list over Zoom, one for convenience and two because Brad has pneumonia right now, so thanks for being unhealthy. And this actually gives us a chance to do PowerPoints, and man, I'm curious. Were you the same as me that as the year kept going, you're like, did 10 games even come out?
I was worried there up until, because I played most of mine here within the last month or month and a half, when I got most of mine, because I was worried about it. We had talked about at one point making just the best of 2020 new to us at one point. We didn't even know if there was going to be enough for us to do it, but it ended up being okay because Kickstarter started coming in. And
almost. Oh man, for me it was like every week I was getting a Kickstarter, and I was like, or sometimes two in the same week, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, hey everyone, come over, like we need to play this. But it all worked out. I actually there were a lot more games than I ended up like 2020. And so I had a pretty good selection to go through. So as usual, we have our honorable mention to start with, and there is really no reason to talk about how we made our list. This just goes in order of, what we liked least to best, but out of all the games that we did end up playing that were 2020. So I think I am up first. Kat made this PowerPoint, so let's hope that she didn't get some janky ass fucking screenshots. It's like the size of a quarter. So here is my honorable mention. Calico. Oh, you should probably move the...
Yep, I'm going there.
Calico was, actually, I should say, I actually ranked these, not in the normal way that I normally do it. I actually used PubMeeple for all of these. I incorporated them and then went through that because that's also how we're doing our top 100 this year. But I will say that, can I move this? Oh, okay. So that's actually how I did it. And I ended up doing this list a couple of times because Calico was in the top 10. And then I forgot about the game, so I added that in. And then it was like number 11. And then I did it again. And then this is kind of where it stuck. So Calico is a phenomenal game. It is so freaking adorable. I absolutely love this box cover. And this is one of those games where it is heavier than you would think. You are basically drafting tiles to place on your quilt board, your own personal quilt board, and that have patterns and colors. And basically, if you get three colors touching, you get a button, which is 3 points. But you're really going for the patterns on these tiles, that if you get a certain number of the same pattern, it corresponds to one of the cats, and each cat has two patterns that you're going for. And that is basically where you're going to be getting a majority of your points. But what also makes this game very thinky is the fact that you have objective tokens or tiles on your board that are like, okay, this one needs two of each color, or two colors, like 2, 2, and 2. So specific tiles surround it of colors, and you get 7 points. But if you get two colors, 2, 2, and 2 of colors and patterns, then you get 11 points. So you really want to think about your placing, and it does give you the freedom of where you want to place. You can either place on any edge or a tile that you have already placed. This game is phenomenal. They even put a story of each of the cats that are in the game. It is adorable, so it is my honorable mention.
Good one. All right, my number 11, I don't think you've played, but it's a good one. And it's I'm gonna have to bounce my picture around.
I don't know what Cat did, so
no, it's fine. So Super Skill Pinball 4K.
No, I have not played this. I did see it though.
This one just came out not too awfully long ago. It's
okay.
It's really interesting because it's a roll and write game. but it's like set up like a pinball board or like a game, and you're rolling and you're marking stuff, and you're kind of controlling where your pinball, not controlling, but wherever your ball goes, it's causing different points to be gained or different things to happen. It's super simplistic. It's a wonderful solo game. If you're looking for just something to kind of do to pass time and stuff.
Yeah.
It's by Jeff Engelstein too. So I mean, you think he's such a brainiac, and then to come out with a game like this, it was just kind of interesting for a roll and write.
So how does like the ball work?
You roll a dice, and it controls where the ball goes, like where you're hitting and stuff and everything. So, and you have your flippers, and you just do it's just interesting. I mean, it's worth something to try. It's really cheap. It's like $20,
Cool.
And it's something they could come out with a ton of new pads and pinball machines, and stuff like that for it. Just to keep going.
So do each of these, like on the cover, are these like different themes?
Yeah, there's
like
different
the
themes
pinball
throughout.
machine?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they different?
Yeah, they're set up differently.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat.
That's so weird.
It was something I just got because it was cheap one time, and I messed with it, and it was just it was fun.
You're like, oh. Yeah. I mean, because as a kid, I remember growing up. It's like, well, either you had internet or it was really shitty, or you didn't, and you had the default pinball game on the PC.
Right.
Because that's the only time I've ever really played pinball was the computer game, and every once in a while at some random arcade I happen to go to. So, all right, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right,
cool.
Back to
my number 10 is Alter Quest. Now, this is a very interesting one because.
Well, can I interrupt you really quick?
Yeah.
Because this is my number 10 as well.
Oh.
So
that's interesting. It's almost we have a top 5 worst/disappointing list as well. And this year as well is what I meant to say. And it's weird with how hyped you and I had this game before it came out. And for it to still be at number 10, it's weird because it almost feels at the same time that it could go on, for me, that disappointing list. However, it makes it on the top 10 of 2020 because at the end of the day, the game is still extremely fun. Right. It is a blacklist game. Whereas I think we had set the expectations so high because we like Brook City and Street Masters so much that we kind of put it on a pedestal that maybe it just never had a shot at doing. However, this game still follows the modular deck system. It does it in a different way. And because I for all of my games, for the record, I do have a run where I will have one by the time this comes up or shortly after. So a lot of people actually corrected me on the rules for this game, and I think one of the big things that we messed up on was the fact that when you open a room, each player draws a threat card, and the way I did it was, well, the person who opened the room does it, and that kind of that actually adds a lot of the intensity to it because it's not so easy to kill the enemies like it is in Street Masters, but that's because Street Masters has like a horde of enemies that you're fighting on that board.
Right.
I still think they do a great fantasy job. I think that the heroes are extremely unique in how they play. Now I'm consistently playing the which is the horse guy, Bojack Witcher, and it's still a blast. But I think the initial wow, this game is going to be a god and and that I think that's what kept it off of the disappointing, because I had to basically realize, no, that was my expectation of it. But yeah, you can go ahead and talk about it, since it's also your
it's pretty much the same. Like it fell this way for me. I haven't played it a ton, a couple of times. I think if I play it more and just get the gist of it a little bit more, it may have been a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But like I told you when we were discussing one other time, it seems a little more convoluted than their other games, as far as like there's so much stuff going on, and everything. So it's not a horrible game, but as like you said, as pumped as I was for it, it just didn't quite hit there yet.
Right.
I think I need to, like I said, I need to play it more, just to I need to play it with somebody else too, because right now I play it solo with two heroes.
Solo.
So I think if I was playing with another person as well, that might change a little bit too,
Right.
But yeah, it's still a top 10 game of the year. I would have probably guessed before I played it, I probably would have guessed that it would have been a top 2 or 3 though.
Yeah, I agree. I think the general consensus is that their rule book is like horrendously bad. Like, I think they just oversimplified it. They were like, as they were writing it up, they're like, oh, well, we know how to play, so we don't have to explain it. And it's like, what? That makes zero sense. They omitted so many things. But once you were able to finally get into it and be like, oh, okay, like the enemies are unique, like the heroes are cool. You have the villain, which actually has his own deck. The villain is kind of like always kind of around, but he doesn't show up unless his deck comes out.
Right.
And that's kind of the timer. I very much enjoy now I've never actually played this game, but I've seen it, was it Hero Quest esque kind of board.
That was my first
Hero Quest.
Yeah, that was the first copy game I owned.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I hear it's great, and they also did a reprint, didn't they? A second edition. Yeah. I didn't touch it. But still, like you do get that feel. You are exploring the map, and you get different terrain, and you can interact with that terrain, and in really cool, interesting ways. And I feel that the different heroes are a lot of fun and have their own different dynamic that probably you actually get to do a little bit more with than the other games. I think that you can actually play more cards and have more combinations with these heroes than you can in the other one, where it's just like, okay, we'll play a card and then do an action on a card or something like that. You still have that, but some of the cards are actually free to play. So Ultra Quest is still great, but not as great as the other 9.
Right.
All right. My number 9 is also your number 9. Oh yeah, there's yours.
There's your number 9.
My number 9 is Tekhenu, the Obelisk of the Sun. Now, this is a board and dice game that came out with another one earlier this year. And this one is extremely interesting. Also have a run through for this. Actually, that should be coming up soon. But this one, a brain burner. Oh my God, does this just eat away. Probably more complex out of the board and dice game. So Sulkin isn't board and dice, but it's David Tucci, is it David? Daniel. One of the guys. He does all these games. This one feels, out of all the kind of Euro games that I have played, the closest to a Vita Lasarda game that wasn't a Vita Lasarda game. But what you do in this one is there are different sections of the board that there is this obelisk in the relatively center of the board that basically incorporates kind of a shadow. And really, there are 3 different colored dice, and the dice that that basically the different colors just kind of mean, okay, well, in this color of the shadow, it's either in the sun. This is where the dice get placed. That's really all it is. But that can matter because you will be taking dice that will allow you to do certain actions. It's kind of the power of the action of what you're trying to do. So you have different resource tracks that you're trying to go up. You have cards that you can get that will basically either give you resources or give you special abilities. You have columns, like tiers that you're wanting to place in different sections of the board that will also give you kind of it'll give you like a bonus, but as well as end game victory points. So this one, and that's just 3, but it all focuses on the different Egyptian gods that each do their own thing, and it's just on that cusp. I mean, this is perfect for me because I end up liking these games, but in terms of in comparison to the other ones that they have made, that this one it probably won't hit the table as much as I would like it to, unlike like Teotihuacan, whereas it's still complex, but not people can grasp it easier. This is the next level after Teotihuacan. That it's like, okay, we've played this enough, let's go to something a little heavier. But for me, I very much enjoyed this quite a bit, and it has so much replayability, so many avenues for strategy. And what's interesting is I don't end up really liking this theme. Egypt has never really been kind of ooh, that's so cool, like a Viking mythology is.
Right.
Egypt gods, I'm just I know Ra. The rest of them, I have no idea who the hell these people are.
Surely you know Set, right?
I do
Set.
now, right? But it's like I don't know what they do. I just know. I mean, and they incorporate those gods as like, okay, well this god, like you take a die from here, you're gonna do his action. You take a die from here, you can do his action, and so it's very, very thinky, and also surprisingly not as long as I would have expected it to be, and really good at 3. So Tekhenu is my number 9.
All right. My number 9 is one that I've had for a while. It was a Kickstarter. It's listed as 2020 though. I thought it was a 2019 to start with, and it's Sorcerer City.
Oh wow, yeah, I thought this was 2019 as well.
I think it was for Kickstarter backers, but then it hit retail in 2020.
Oh yeah, kind of like On Mars is a 2020 game, but I actually looked. It was on my 2019 list, so I was like,
really? So anyway, Sorcerer City, it's a really cool game, and it doesn't really fit my liking because it has real-time aspects.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I was hesitant there for a while. The production of the game is crazy with the metal stacking coins. I don't know if you remember seeing them, but it has all the metal coins in weird shapes, and they all kind of stack on top of each other, making designs and stuff. But what you do is it's a tile laying city building game. So you start off with these tiles that will be face down, and then as time goes, you go out and you lay them down. They have all these different colors of regions and stuff, and you're trying to match them and build your city.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a monster could pop up and cause issues, but then you'll get more tiles as the game goes, and making your pile when you build your city that much more challenging, because you get points for if you have the big region, correct color region, and different stuff like that. And you just it's real time, but yet it's not like crunching. You know, and plus real time has started to I've played a few more real time games.
Right, it rubs off on you now
lately, so it's not as like, I think I got ruined with Escape, like that Escape, the
Curse of the Temple.
Yeah, because I hate that. But these games like this, they aren't like that crazy.
Yeah, it's not nonstop real time for 30 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, this one, I'm sure I would like the game, but man, it's like, can you put some fucking design on your tiles instead of the color?
Yeah, that is kind of odd, but yeah.
Like, that's what kept me away from it, honestly. I mean, because am about presentation, and it's not like I won't play it. Like like if I play it, I'd probably be like, "Oh, this is amazing,"
Mhm.
but it's just like, "Oh, hey, each 4 different colors on it,
Right.
match them up," and I'm like, "I what?" Like, did this game come out in the 80s?
Well,
So,
and it's made by the same people that did Tidal Blades. Um,
oh,
Druid
Druid
City.
City Games,
Yeah.
they're they're slowly, yeah, they did okay. I mean, because the cards have art. Well, some of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
they are slowly becoming a company to kind of keep an eye out for.
mhm. Yeah. But anyway,
Well,
Sorcerer
cool.
City.
Scott Capitou.
Yeah. He's done a lot of. I can't remember other stuff he's done. He's done quite a few games as well. But yeah, Sorcerer City. Um, it's a fun because it has a good solo variant as well. So
That's good.
you can go through and do it
I'm
that
looking
way.
him up.
Um, oh, Scott Caputo.
Caputo. What did I say? Capitou? Because I'm an idiot. So let's see. He
Oh,
has done.
he
Oh, okay.
he did
Yeah, either he had a hand, the whistle stop,
he did all the
Voluspa,
whistle games, I think.
the 100 Torii.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So whistle
So
stop,
he's done
whistle
a few stuff.
mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of. I don't know any of the whistle games, but I know Voluspa, and that's tile laying. So
Yeah. Oh yeah,
okay,
for sure.
at
Anyway,
least
Sorcerer
Voluspa
City.
has some. Yeah, cool, awesome.
All right, you ready?
Well, my number 8. Yeah, because I got thrown off by the same number 10s. My number 8 is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. This one was such a shock with how much I like this game. Man, and funny enough, actually, at the time of this recording, I played Paladins yesterday to kind of have a comparison of the two, and I gotta say, Viscounts just edges it out a little bit um, for being kind of somewhat as complex. It's like it's not as complex, but it still has that meat to it. But at the same time, being simpler to learn. Now, for me, the West Kingdom games have only gotten better. And by better, I mean Architects sucks ass and Viscounts and Paladins are really good. Uh, so with this, you actually have that circular board, and you have a Viscount that you kind of do a little bit of deck building in this game, and kind of have a it's not a tableau, but you kind of have a track of cards that you play, and the card that you play, the coin cost of it indicates where you can move, and you have to go around in this rondel with your Viscount. Where you land is the action that you can do. So on the outer edge, you can trade, which basically gets you resources or coins, or you can build and lets you build a building on the edge, which then gives you obviously a benefit and victory points at the end. But if you go on the inner track, you can either buy a monument, not a monument, oh crap, I always forget what those are called. Basically, it's like a manuscript. You can buy a manuscript, which are either an immediate victory point or an immediate benefit or a end game victory points. But also you can do kind of a set collection thing with that, or you can place your workers into the castle, and there's kind of a competition for majority in the castle, and you also get points for where you have workers in the castle. Uh, and you just kind of go around and you do this until until the game ends. But the amount of variety and variation in how you play this game and the different ways that you can score points is fantastic. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is probably some of the worst artwork I have ever seen. All the people are grotesque and I hate them. They're the ugliest people I have ever seen in a game. However, Viscounts is still extremely good, and I think it's actually no. It's Paladins is the one that's getting an expansion next year. But I would assume this will get an expansion. But I very much enjoyed this. I was surprised with the deck building that was actually in it, because basically you are looking for symbols of the three different actions that you kind of want to have of your three face-up people that can be up. You just add up how many symbols they have, and that's kind of the strength of what you can do. So very much enjoyed this game quite a bit. That is Viscounts of the West Kingdom.
I haven't played it yet.
It's good. Have you played Paladins?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Just so I haven't played Paladins multiplayer yet.
Paladins is pretty good solo. What do you think of it?
I didn't mind it. It's I still like. I'm still gonna go back and be I'm a Raiders of the North Sea guy of all these games.
Well, apparently you can get Raiders of Scythia now, or Scythia, which is the exact same game, just a different theme.
Yeah, Raiders of the North Sea is still my favorite of all these. But
all right, cool.
All right, so here we go.
Oh, nice.
I got this as well, and mainly, there really isn't much more to say about than what you did. I mean, it's the art's awesome, and the tile laying and all the aspects of that when you're getting points and different stuff is just, this was an easy sell for my wife.
Yeah.
To get to play.
Oh yeah, because she's wanting a cat now, so you got this game instead, and you're like, see, right. You can pet the cardboard.
Well, and that little cat on the front looks like a cat she had when we first started dating. So.
Oh, nice. It is so cute. I love it. I love this. I love the cover so much.
Yeah. And it kind of came out of nowhere because I saw the deal and I was like, oh, that kind of looks, it looks cute, but I didn't think it was going to be something that I would like to play, And then I started hearing people talk it up big time on some of my podcasts and stuff. So then that's when I tried it out, and it's definitely worth it for sure.
Yeah.
Did
I agree. This is actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, did I play a Kickstarter? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I know there's two versions. I just have the retail version, so I didn't know if there's anything different.
I think the Kickstarter added maybe a nicer bag, and I think there were a few more cats. Like there's a shop cat that you can get. But ultimately, I don't think there really was any major difference because I think it went on Kickstarter and then later on AEG picked it up.
Gotcha.
Because the picture is showing flat out games, but I think it's also an AEG game. But yeah, this one surprised me.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a good one. But yeah. That is my number 8.
8.
All right.
Cool.
Your 7.
My number 7 is Tidal Blades. So Heroes of the Reef. Now, this was a game that was on our anticipated of 2020 last year. And the first thing I got to say about this game is its production value is, I think, well worth the wait. It is just absolutely beautiful. The art book, which also was a lore book for this game, I actually read some of it. So it was really, for me, engaging because you kind of knew some of the history of the different locations that you can go to. The arena where they do the games, the reef where the time rift is, which I actually wasn't expecting anything about time travel or time, manipulation.
Right.
And anyway, for a game like this, a place where you go to actually train to be a Tidal Blade. This game was so good because you have your own different hero or aspiring hero that has their own deck that over the course of the game, you will actually be getting some cards which make you a little bit more unique. That allows you to, okay, well, I can use a certain number of dice if I go to this spot, or the crocodile, for example, he can be like, oh, I actually don't have to roll the penalty die the first time I re-roll. The oxalotl can also use, they can use their dice as wilds whenever battling monsters. It's really cool because as the game goes on, you have more and more actions to do. But when you go to a spot, you have to have one of your action discs, and then that basically, if you don't have an action disc, you can't go. So that kind of shows your timer. But as you jump from place to place, you have to leave a disc behind, which means that people can't go there. Now, of course, there's ways around it with special abilities and things like that. But I very much thought this game was amazing. The once again, variety and ways to get points. The dice upgrade, like how you start out with weaker dice, but as you can level them up, which then gives you more actions to do, but also you need some level up, higher level dice to go fight monsters. But monsters, whereas they're big game points, you it basically wipes all your dice out. So then you kind of have to start over. So you have to, if you want to go fight monsters, you have to plan for that. But that is in-game victory points. You also have a track of hero points that if you do actions where the turtle is point, and he's kind of like, ooh, look at that sexy chameleon, and then you just kind of feel uncomfortable for a little bit. So yeah, this one was fantastic. I did not expect the part 1 either. I didn't know there was going to be a part 2.
Yeah, and it's not going to be anything like this game. It's just going to be in the same world.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a dungeon crawl, right?
Yeah, I think something like that. But I'm sure with as creative as they were with this, it's not going to be just your basic dungeon crawl either. I have a feeling it's going to have some unique stuff to it.
Yeah, and I've also heard they're doing an RPG.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
So this is a really interesting world, and it's not dark like a lot of other games that this could have easily been. It's very colorful. It makes me want to explore this world, but it does have that sense of peril that it's like, okay, well, obviously it's kind of like that, that island native feel that we want to protect this area. I think it's really, really good. So that is my number 7, Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef.
All right. My number 7 is Meeple Land. All right. So I take it you haven't heard of this one.
No, not at all.
All right. It is, you're creating a theme park. This is kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon or anything like that. If you look at pictures of it, like if you look it up and stuff, it kind of gives you a almost a Dinosaur Island kind of vibe to it a little bit.
Okay.
Just because you're getting people show up, like meeples will show up on buses, and then they come into your park, and you need to make sure and have enough things built in your park to have enough places for the meeples to go. And you get deducted points at the end of the game if you have people standing at the entrance and there wasn't room for them to get on a ride. But as you're buying things, you have to keep like, it's kind of a weird, you've played Carcassonne, right?
So only on the app and like twice.
Well, you know how like when you lay a tile, there's like the road and you connect the roads and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That there's a path in this game. So when you build a ride, you have to keep building on with your paths because you get penalized if you have paths that don't go to anything. So you need to try to keep your park uniform, like keep a path going and stuff. So there's a trick in trying not to screw yourself later by messing up your path and everything, because then you could just kind of hose yourself totally. But as you buy certain things to place them, like let's say in the top left corner of the tile that has the Ferris wheel, let's say it may have a pink meeple, and then it has like a blue meeple with a hamburger next to it.
Okay.
So the only way you'll be able to place a blue meeple on that is if somewhere connected to that tile is a food place. So it's
all right.
It's a puzzle. I mean, it's it looks super simple, right? Like if you look at this cover, it looks like it'd be set for a light family stuff. Mm-hmm. but the decision making is pretty tough, as far as really sitting down and thinking ahead, the puzzle aspect.
Yeah.
That seems to be what Blue Orange has been doing a lot of. Because like photosynthesis, there's a lot of thinkiness to it. New York 1901. There was that one I haven't played yet, that planet one.
They did Planet. That one was pretty light, but still had some thought to it.
Right. This one's just this one's pretty simple looking. Like, I think it's confusing if you watch a review with Vassal, and them guys were talking about how confused the cover is, because it looks like I said, it looks like a really light family game.
Yeah.
But yet it's not made for a light family game. Like, because you really have to think ahead and build out your park.
They also did King and Queen Domino.
Okay, and see, I haven't played those. I know those are pretty simple too.
Queen Domino is probably on the same cusp as this one with the complexity, but not being overly complex. Yeah, I never would have touched this. I would have been like, okay, it's a theme park for kids. Like,
yeah, it's a good one though. Since Unfair really isn't a game that I play a whole lot anymore, and then having something like this that was colorful and you had meeples and there was a nice puzzle to it. It's definitely a cool one to have. Games don't take super long and everything.
Neat.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I just saw this and I was like, what the hell, Brad? Okay. Played this with a 5-year-old.
Nope. It was me and a bunch of adults playing it.
Well, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check this one out.
Yeah, not bad. All right. Are you ready for your 6?
My number 6 is Dark Rituals Malleus Maleficarum. Now, this is a game that I backed on a whim for Kickstarter. Just kind of on theme, and then I just kind of forgot about it. But whenever it came in, I was like, oh yeah. And then I'm reading the rule book and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a 1 versus many game. They still make those. They're not all app integrated to be fully cooperative. But this one I feel like is one of the most balanced 1 versus many. The theming is actually a bunch of different heroes versus witches, and witches are using spells and potions and shit to basically create a dark legion, which are the hordes of monsters that the heroes have to fight against. Now, what they did really cool, there is a Kickstarter character that is literally Geralt from The Witcher, so that's cool. His name is Geralt, so Geralt. Anyway, but each person on the hero side, they have their starting weapon, but everyone has an alchemy book, and they go throughout the map picking up resources that allow them to, which are ingredients, to cast these alchemical spells, which are huge and different for each person. Like, for example, there's a plague doctor. He has higher spells that allow him to remove plagues, like that the witch can play, and the plagues for the witch are basically permanent debuffs for all the heroes. But what makes this game extremely interesting is, how in level 7 Omega Protocol or in Stronghold, how it's like it had that stamina tracker to where it's like, okay, like the more I do or the more the heroes do, the more the enemy gets to do. Well, it's similar to that in the sense that each hero has their own stamina pool of dice to use, not dice, of tokens to use, and then the witch also has its own stamina pool. And each action, moving minions, costs stamina, attacking costs stamina, and you go until both sides consecutively pass. But it's a scenario-based game. Each scenario has the objectives for, like, multiple objectives for the ways the heroes can win, and usually one objective for the witch to win. But I felt that they were extremely, extremely balanced. You actually had some thought instead of just mindlessly going and killing enemies. The heroes have thought on, okay, well, I could kill this monster that for the witch to defend with is going to cause less stamina, but it's going to roll more dice to defend. or I can attack this monster, but it's going to cost them more stamina but less dice to defend, or vice versa. It gives some interesting thought for the heroes to be like, okay, do we want to try and drain the witch of stamina so they can't do anything, whereas we can continue to do stuff, or do we just kind of want to kill as many monsters as possible, which will make the job easier for us? So this one very much took me by surprise. I extremely love the artwork, this very dark gothic, but it's not, demons or anything like that. They actually went the witch route, which is a theme that I think is hardly ever touched on. And the scenarios are campaigny, like the story, essentially, the flavor text of the opening ones do kind of connect, but it's not so much like hey, each hero progresses and levels up. Usually it's like the winner of the scenario gets a certain number of victory points that they get spend to, the heroes have 7 victory points, they can remove a minion at the beginning of the scenario. Just things like, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and because of the artwork and the grotesque nature, I'm gonna try and go about getting these minis painted. So I thought this one was great. So Dark Rituals Malleus Maleficarum.
All right, I'd never heard of that one.
We thought was a book on witches. I believe it is actually a book on how to kill witches. So there's that.
All right. Well, my number 6.
Yeah, I'm already lost.
Is Warp's Edge.
Oh, this is the solo game, right?
Yes, this is the next in the series after Proving Grounds.
Okay.
This one is better than Proving Grounds. Mainly
really
because
low bar,
though. Mainly because this one uses one of the mechanics, I guess, that I like from Orleans. It's a bag building game.
All right.
To do stuff.
Oh, that's a cool cover.
Yeah,
I only saw the red ship, but I didn't see the holographic kind of warping behind it.
Yeah, and it's a really unique style of game, because pretty much what the theme of it is a battle has just taken place. You've gotten separated from your fleet, and you're trying to go through all these warp gates to get back to your fleet, but they keep sending you out further and further and further where you're not supposed to go, and you end up by a black hole and the mothership of the enemy. So then you go and attack. You don't have hardly any resources. You would attack them. You get blown up, fall into the black hole, come back and fully powered, but you know how to handle them the next time.
Okay.
That's kind of the theme, I guess. But like I said, it's a bag building game, and you get to choose. I think there's 4 different starfighters you can choose. Each one of them has a different weapon loadout and fly a different way and everything. And you're going to be taking on there's 5 alien motherships that you get to pick one at the beginning to go after. And it also has its little fleet that you have to take on as well, which if you see these huge motherships and you're this tiny little ship, it's like, how in the hell am I doing this and taking on their fleet? Now, this is not an easy game.
I'd hope not. I mean, if it's solo and it's designed to be solo, it should be challenging. It so? Because Proving Grounds I hated because it was all luck. Like there was nothing you can do. It says I roll dice and hope I get what I get to kill these people.
You're at the randomness of the bag building. I mean, that's because when you pull out stuff,
roll over how you build your bag, right?
Right.
So essentially, what you draw is random. Same with Orleans, but
it's not as random as Proving Grounds. Not at all.
Cool.
But yeah, it's you just kind of you can warp too. But you only have a certain number of warps per game, and that kind of helps you heal back up and do different stuff. That's like a way you fight, you warp out a little bit, you come back, do some more. But there's all these different ways you can go. You have on your board, you have a ship board, that's out there, and you'll place the tokens on that board depending on how you're wanting to do stuff. Like you allocate that stuff out there as well. I think this would be one just for a simple solo experience. I think you would like this one. The thing was because I got the Kickstarter version, and they had like cardboard tokens, but then you got plastic ones, like double-sided plastic, nice tokens and everything. But the paint job wasn't very good on them. So instead of finding out who needed replacements, which this is a good thing that Renegade did, because it's like they're not even letting, you don't even have to put in for a work order or anything. They're just making new ones and sending it to every single person that backed. So that's kind of a nice gesture, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, do it right the first time, but better late than never, or anything.
But yeah, it's a 45 minute game. A lot of that just depends on which mothership you pick, because some of them are 3 parts, like they're like this, it's this huge stupid thing, or other deals, you know. But it's a pretty solid deal, and like you said, I mean, it's unique art and just kind of a nice little setup.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm sure it being solo, like, it probably wasn't super expensive either.
I think I paid, because I got the deluxe version. It had a play mat and an expansion. It was like $45.
Still, yeah, that's not too
bad
bad
at all.
Neat. Okay, yeah, I remember you talking about this one, and I was like, ooh, Proving Grounds. The solo.
No, it's a lot better than that one.
Right. All right, cool. All right, here we are at number 5, halfway through. My number 5 is Lost Ruins of Arnak, which I am 100% sure will be higher on your list, unless it's weirdly also at number 5. This one is so freaking good. And the way, here's a testament to this game and to how great 2020 actually was, because I'm sure a lot of people were the same as us, where it's like, even come out, like, besides COVID, like what happened this year? Is it still 2020? This game is so good that it just proves the other 4 above it are just phenomenal.
Right.
But Lost Ruins of Arnak is a game that I had heard nothing about until you actually asked about it, and I was like, oh no, I don't know anything. I mean, CGE seems to kind of just release games and not tell anyone about it. They're just like, hey, here's a game. Because Sanctum, I mean, was also kind of there. Excuse me as I throw up. But this is a Indiana Jones-esque kind of theme. You are a group of explorers going to an uncharted land that you are trying to basically explore and kill guardians and go up on a research track, gather artifacts, all while doing some unique, well, I wouldn't say super unique worker placement, but the deck building I actually very much enjoyed. This is a game that turns deck building somewhat on its head, the same way Aeon Zen did, in that whenever you buy items, they go into the bottom of your deck. You never shuffle your deck this entire game.
Except for
everything that you use.
Sorry. Your used cards you'll shuffle before you put on the bottom.
Oh, sure, but but you get to use your shit. This is what always bugged me about deck builders, is that when you buy a card from the market, it goes straight to your discard pile, and you're like, hope I see that at some point with the right combination of what I intended it to use. Here, when you buy an item, it goes to the bottom of your deck, and you get maybe a 20-card deck total. Like, I went heavy item buying in this, and I had probably 20 cards total.
Well, I think that's the reason they do it the interesting way with the deck building, is because with there only being 5 rounds, those cards you buy, you may only use 2 times, 3 times. I mean, it just depends on.
In fact, some of the items you buy, you actually only do get 1 use.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, exile this card to get this awesome, ability, but that's at the cost of maybe a point or 2.
That's why the artifacts are good.
Yeah.
So
what also makes it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was about to bring up, was the fact that with with items, yeah, they go to the bottom, but they keep coming back potentially. But artifacts, it's just like as soon as you get it, you use it immediately. But then in future turns, you need a resource, a tablet, to actually use it again. But man, this game is so freaking good. Like it's like the fluid of the free actions that, I mean, as the game goes on, you should just be constantly doing more and more with less, almost, because it's like, well, you only have 2 workers, and so you're sitting there like, okay, where do I absolutely need them to go? But there's other items and cards and stuff that allow you to have a little bit more flexibility with your workers. And going up on the research track, you can you have 2 tokens that you kind of have to manage on how far they're going. Go into exploring, you know, new locations, even the higher ones where it's harder to get to. Brings in a bunch of resources, but you're most likely to get more fear, which is just clogs up your deck and also gets negative points at the end. The guardians are there that you have to spend a separate action to remove, but if you get them, they give you a one-time ability and also 5 points at the end of the game. The art is gorgeous for this game, and CGE, it's weird. All their games have the same kind of production, which is kind of weird. Like Adrenaline or Dungeon Pets or Sanctum or any of those games, they all have the same kind of production, which is funny. But it's always good. Like this wasn't Kickstarter, was it? I don't think it was.
No, it just came straight to retail.
Yeah, it came straight to retail, and they actually had high quality components in terms of the arrowheads and the gems and things like that. So it goes to show once again that you don't need to go on Kickstarter to make a good game. Simon. So yeah, this one was, I had a feeling I was going to like it after I watched kind of a run through before I ended up getting it. And I was like, okay, well, like we'll just see how it goes. And man, solid. So I hope that they I was gonna say, I hope that they support it at least with maybe more monsters or locations, things like that.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. They have announced a solo campaign that's going to come out in early 2021. It's going to be a print and play campaign for solo mode.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what that's going to look like. But and then the other part of this game that I thought was cool was how it has the flip side of the board, which changes the game up.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know if you played the snake side on the board.
No, I actually didn't. I only played it on the, I don't remember what they called that board side, but yeah, the standard.
Yeah. But it's interesting on the back side, because then some of your assistants, it's like they've been captured, and it's another spot that you can to, and you can recruit you. It's almost like your first mission went bad, and now you're going and you're saving assistants, and so it changes the game up a little bit and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, Min and Elwin, they did a fantastic job making this one. So I love it. That's my number 5, Lost Ruins of Arnak.
All right, my number 5. Speaking of the whistle games.
Oh, it's Scott Caputo.
Well, and Luke Laurie, who did the Manhattan Project stuff.
Look, his name isn't as fun to say, so I don't care.
So Whistle Mountain, I've never played Whistle Stop.
Same.
It was a pretty simplistic train, like a route building game, I think. This one is its own game. It's not an expansion. It just kind of continues on. And pretty much what you're doing in this is it's a worker placement game. And you're trying to build up the Rocky Mountains. So right. You're using like, what do they call those stupid things? Like blimps and hot air balloons and different stuff to travel up and build. Now what happens is as you're setting workers, because you buy these technologies and stuff that you're building, and you're building them up the mountain, and there's scaffolding that you've kind of built down the side of the mountain that your workers are on. Now, the more stuff that gets built on the mountain, the more heat that's produced, the more snow that melts, and then your workers that are down in the scaffolding at the bottom get threatened to drown because
Oh, neat.
the more heat up there, the snow peaks are melting, causing the water level to rise.
Wow, did Bezier Games and Scott Caputo have an agenda?
I don't know.
Obviously, I'm kidding,
but you're gathering resources, but depending on what you build, and you're just doing. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's kind of a give and take. You're trying not to get your workers to drown. You can try to get your other people's workers to drown if you can get
their lives don't matter. They can drown all they want.
Wow.
But
there's all these like weird contraptions and different stuff that you're building on your way up the mountain.
The polyomino game?
Yeah, kind of. It's but it's colorful, you know, like the cover. I hate the cover. Because the cover is just
the cover does not at all dictate what this game looks like. Because I'm looking at the board right now. Yeah, this game looks really good, actually. I think I can get behind this.
It's up there's some of the YouTube guys I watch that are putting this up there towards the top of their game of the year. That's what got me to try it. And it's, I don't personally own it, but I've played it a few times, and it's a pretty solid game. I mean, it's thinky.
Yeah. I think the name threw people off because they had played Whistle Stop.
Right.
Which made sense with trains in some weird way. So then you're like Whistle Mountain, but then apparently it's about drowning people. So.
that's a byproduct.
Those are just casualties of climbing up the mountain, but it's not my people.
Right.
And Bezier Games, I don't think they do much anymore. The biggest one was the Suburbia Collector's Edition, right?
And Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to grab a copy of this. I think this would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you would really dig it.
Cool. Number 4.
You're number
4.
What
could be better than
the other
Lost
two
Ruins of Arnak? And there's Tawan Tensuyu, the Inca Empire. Yep. And both of these games came out the same year by David Turczi. Did I say Daniel earlier? I'm dumb.
You said David and Daniel. You couldn't remember.
Yeah, they're brothers. They're twins, actually. Split personalities. Depends on how he's feeling. This one just blew me away, honestly. Like, these T games are just almost an insta buy for me, just because and I think there's another one coming out next year. I don't remember what it's called, but and I think they also announced another one. Like, Board and Dice are just, man, love them. Like, but I think actually next year they're doing another T game, but I think they're doing another one that doesn't have a T name. They're doing these different themes, whereas the games really aren't thematic. Like, the Inca Empire doesn't really show up. It's Euro-y thematic, and what I mean by that is the artwork, the overall kind of different actions are somewhat laid into the theme that they're trying to represent. Like, for example, Tekhenu had the Egyptian gods there, and this one you have a pyramid. I don't know what the hell that mound is called, but when I first read the rulebook for this one, I was like, stupid hard. Like, because what you do is the board has like 5 different sections that whenever you are placing, you have like your priest that it's like in the inner circle. But essentially, where you place around in one of the 5 sections and how far down you go down costs more resources. So, for example, if you have your priest in one section, to the next section over, that's going to cost you 1 resource. But if you go all the way to the bottom, that's going to cost you 3. So you have a total of 4 resources you have to place a worker. And I thought this was going to be so stupidly difficult to remember, but what they did for this game is made one of the best player aids I have ever seen in a game, that made this game easier than Tekkenu. I'd still say it's probably a little bit more complex than Teotihuacan, but it is a digestible increase in difficulty, whereas Tekkenu, I'd be like, okay, I have to explain a lot of stuff here.
Right.
The worker placement aspect of this game is phenomenal. It has a weird 5 tribes feel, and what I mean by that is that each color of the worker has a special ability, and how you place on the spot, workers will stay board unless you do a particular action to start freeing up. But you essentially will place a worker on a spot. If you place in a location, you get 1 action because each spot has 3 actions surrounding it. Then if you place them adjacent to the same color worker, you get an additional action. The blue and green meeples, if you place them on a blue or green spot, gives them an additional action. So where you're placing around allows you to do more and more things, but you want to be smart about it because that will eventually, hole up that location. But the way that combat works is extremely fluid, and what I mean by that is that whenever you initiate a combat, because you move your priest around the temple as well to do a particular action, whenever you do combat, you just have a hand of warriors, and basically you just spend those cards to be able to attack. There's 4 different fighting sections on the board. One of them's for more resources, one's for just points, one of them's for another thing, and then another thing. I don't remember off the top of my head, but everyone gets a chance to fight. But the person who initiated gets a bonus and they get first pick. So this game is just so good because you also have a hand of god cards that are beneficial if you can get statues like the Incan statues that have icons on them. Because where you place your worker, you need to have a matching god card that has that symbol. It sounds more complex than I'm honestly making it. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not like a gateway worker placement game. It's board and dice, and none of their games are. However, the way that the rule book and board look, it makes you think that it's going to be difficult. But man, that player aid was so freaking good. Like, it got an extra point because of the player aid in my ranking. Like, normally it's either I don't really care to think about it, but the fact that every game needs to take this idea and you utilize the player aid instead of just giving you like a, hey, here's what the different 5 phases are. This had so much information on it that was cohesive in a legible way that people could look at it and be like, oh, okay, I know what the meeples do. I know how much it's going to cost me in resources if I go here. I know what every different spot does. This game is fantastic. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. So that is my number 4, Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire.
All right, my number 4 you introduced to me.
Ooh,
and it was real time. And it was real time.
Interesting. Okay.
And it is Project Elite.
I don't have this on my list because I thought it was a reprint.
It may or may not have been. I don't know. It is. I never even touched the first one. The first one's impossible to find. So when this one came out, that's why I went on ahead and done it. This is one that I've looked into trying to buy it, but I can't find like the big collection of it anywhere for a cheap price. But but anyway, it is a remake. Simon went through it. From what I understand, it took forever to get delivered. And they kind of brought the game back to life because I think the original. I think what the story was is the original Kickstarter happened. I think it didn't like get delivered totally, and then it just kind of died or something.
There was a lot of backlash to the original designer, from what I remember hearing, that he kind of just gave up on gaming in general, and it was just a shit show, all around. But I mean, yeah, I would probably say with the basically abundance, or not abundance, the lack of the original, that this one is basically, yeah, cool. Can't It's a new game, came out this
Right.
year.
And what's awesome about it, I mean, well, because it was not ever even on my radar. Like I heard real time, um, high pressure, things constantly coming at you.
Hmm.
But when you, me, and Kat played it that one time, a handful of months ago,
Yeah.
it was a blast. Just
Hmm.
the uh, the waves coming and having to kind of work as a team to get certain objectives met and getting different stuff. It was, even though it was real time, you got to roll your dice so much and do so much during that. I don't know what the time limit was, 1 minute,
I think
2
it's like a
minutes,
couple
whatever.
minutes, a minute or two.
Yeah, but you constantly are rolling stuff and doing stuff. So it's not like you're just like rolling, hit. Okay, he's gone. He's gone. He's
Yeah.
gone. I'm gonna move here. He's gone. It's just, um, and it was enjoyable as hell just having. Uh, Now I don't know if this would be one that you could really solo super easy, because if you were running with two heroes, you'd have to be rolling two sets of dice and trying to do different
Yeah.
stuff, and it would have been a mess. But
Yeah, unless you control two heroes and the dice you use work for both of them. Like if you roll a hit,
combine them
you get
all.
to hit both of them. Yeah, I don't know. That would be a little much. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. This isn't on my list, like I said, because it
Right.
technically is a reprint. Um, and I was a little bit more strict with my list. However, I think through the circumstances, this is a very justifiable addition. But yeah, I completely agree. It's a manageable real time, and that's what I think real time almost needs to be, because you have that intense pressure, but then you get that, okay, well now the aliens are going to do their thing, and that's not real time. Now they do move in real time. If you roll the alien symbol, then you have to
Right.
move one of them. But this is one of those games where everyone is doing their own thing, and you feel like a badass the entire time. Where it's like, because then at the end of the hero's turn, the mobs come out and pushes them all forward. Then you're like, oh god, like you have that ebb and flow roller coaster. Then you come in, you roll your dice, and you just mow down a bunch of more people. And then the bosses come out, and then you're like, oh god, it's okay, focus fire on that boss. It's fantastic. I wish they had more maps. That was kind of the bummer for this. That you expected with CMON, they'd have a lot more stuff. I guess kudos to them on restraining themselves from just doing their normal Kickstarter bloat. However, I will say that I do wish that the mobs of enemies, I kind of wish there were more of, because
Right.
there's the standard 3, and then there's one more, which are the flying bug type. But I think where they made up for it is those are mobs. It probably was like, why make more of them, because they're going to get mowed down and killed immediately anyway. Let's do their variety with the bosses, and I think the bosses there's quite a bit of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this probably would have made my list had I just been a
Right.
little more lenient.
Yep. But yeah, that's probably one of my. It's in the top tier of CMON games that I've played. You
Yeah,
know,
I would agree with you
not
there.
my favorite, but pretty close.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, good choice. What are we on, number?
3.
We're on 3 now?
Yep.
Ooh, my number 3 is Etherfields. Now, Etherfields is obviously Awakened Realms' newest game that was about dreams. So this one, obviously Awakened Realms, I was like, boom, you know, like insta buy, all in, because Awakened Realms is just a phenomenal company for me. Uh, Now, normally, I bet you probably expected this to be number 1. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's number 3. And the reason why it's number 3 is because the rule book is dog shit. So, because you can't really figure out how to play at the beginning. So, but that is kind of a huge negative, even though I'm putting it off as a joke. It actually was a huge factor in determining where it was at. But once you figure it out, and it's really not as hard as to learn as I'm making it seem, but lot of confusing moments. However, once you do figure it out, this game is a blast. It is uses deck building mechanics, slight deck building. Everyone has their own unique deck, but as as you progress, you actually can buy more items and buy more cards by moving throughout the dreamscape. There's essentially two phases. You have the overall dream map, where everyone is just kind of, you have a marker that represents the party, and you just kind of go from location to location, having slumbers, which are mini events, and those are okay. Like a lot of them are more, they're quick, almost skirmishes a little bit. And at the beginning of the game, that is kind of rough because you do fight the same monster over and over. But as you do more, genuine dreams, then more cards come into that slumber deck and fill it out a little bit more, so you don't see that monster as much. But what makes this game a top 3 game for me are the dreams itself, the actual game, and those are so damn fun, and the exploration of the game is so cool. Like the very first one you do, the tutorial one, you're kind of like in the forest, and it's really, the tutorial is pretty good. I feel like that they kind of missed the mark in expanding the tutorial a little bit more, because then you wouldn't be so goddamn confused as to what you were doing once you were out of it. But yeah, you're in this forest, and then eventually you go into a theater, and then you have this you have the script book, which are in, I think, all of their games. Tainted Grail has it. This War of Mine has it. It just fleshes out the world so much. And then you go into the next one, which, I mean, you have so many options in how, like, which dreams you actually want to do. The two that Kat and I have done are so radically different in execution and presentation, but so thematic in their own right, that you're invested in what's going on and how you proceed to solve the dream, and how well you do allows you to either gain new items or a new benefit or new cards, or even progress the story in a different way. It's so cool. I am very excited to actually see how the story progresses. I mean, obviously there's more Kickstarter stuff. In fact, I think my Tainted Grail stuff is going to be set to deliver soon, the Wave 2, so that's more content for that game. Yeah, this is just such a fantastic game, but I will say this game is best solo or with 2. I would never play, that's really with Awakened Realms. I would never play any of their games with more than 2 people. Because it's just, they're so free-flowing, kind of like Seventh Continent. It's just like, I mean, the third or fourth person, they're just kind of going to sit there and be like, okay, what do I do? So this one is awesome. I enjoy it quite a bit. So that is my number 3, Otherfields.
All right. My number 3 is Jaws of the Lion.
Wow. I didn't expect you to put it on the top 10.
Well, it's going to be one of those that kind of, it's kind of in a weird position, because like it's kind of an expansion. It's its own game as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it can kind of be used as both ways, really. This one,
expansion for me, I guess.
Well, I mean, it is. You can look at it as an expansion, or just, I mean, because there's a lot of people that just bought this and have never even owned Gloomhaven too, so it's just kind of, but this version, when we started playing the campaign, single-handedly got me hooked onto Gloomhaven, just because it has the first, like, I think 5 mission tutorial, and just kind of taught how to do your hand management, and just taught you all the little ebb and flow things of the game that the original game didn't really do a good job of teaching, at the beginning.
It literally was like, here's our 50-page rule book.
Right.
Yeah.
So the one thing, probably the coolest part of this game, besides the cool characters, because they did a really good job with the character creation on this, is the map book.
Yeah.
That was the big deal. So being able to not do, like, I'm down here with my other Gloomhaven stuff right now, and there's just piles of crap everywhere.
Yeah.
When you have that book, you know, you just flip your book open, and that's got your map, all your locations of the obstacles and the terrain and all that crap, and you just go for it. Which I think you had said something along the lines that, weren't they talking about possibly doing that for Frosthaven now?
That's what someone told me, was that they're going to release Frosthaven like normal, like Gloomhaven with the tiles and stuff, but later on they're going to do the scenario book, kind of like what they did with Jaws of the Lion. Now, I haven't researched that at all. That's just what someone told me in a comment of our discussion for Jaws of the Lion.
Gotcha. But yeah, there's a lot of the importance of this game causing me to jump into Gloomhaven, because when we do our top 100, you're going to see how Gloomhaven falls, you know, and I was, you know, Gloomhaven was on one of my, I don't know what list it was, like it was overrated or worse, you know, different stuff like that. So, but yeah, Jaws the Lion ended up being a very wise move for Cephalofair Games for this stuff.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think it's pretty smart on their end, because normally you would want to say, oh, start with this and then make the big box. But I think they made the big box and then released this, and that allowed people to go out and buy the big box again. So they just kept raking in that income. Yeah, Jaws of the Lion is such a phenomenal thing. Like, and what I meant by it's an expansion for me is that I was already, you know, head over heels for Gloomhaven.
Right.
More content and more, you know, story. But for you, it was a whole new game because you were so against Gloomhaven that it's like, well, let's give this a shot. I hear it has a tutorial system. Maybe that'll be nice. And then it was just such a phenomenal tutorial system that set the bar so high for other games like this, because no one wants to be handed a 50-page manual to figure out a game. It's like, I don't care how hardcore you are. If you do like that, then get help. Like, because that's not fun. It's one of the biggest reasons why I hated Sword and Sorcery. That was literally a 50-page rule book with 3 different sections. And I'm like, no, this game is not good enough for me to read this. I did play it, obviously. I did read it, but I'm like, God damn. So Frosthaven is, I think Frosthaven might actually be compared to this.
Maybe they'll have a tutorial on
if they don't do a tutorial system with Frosthaven, then they just assume, oh, you've played Gloomhaven, so I think it might hurt. But they got feedback for this. Obviously Frosthaven is coming out next year, probably towards the end, that they do have the time to actually incorporate, hopefully, a tutorial system of some sort. Maybe not to this caliber, but you can at least do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first 2 scenarios to kind of explain how the city management works. Because probably the game's going to play the same. It'll just have more meat to it in Frosthaven. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good choice. I wasn't sure where you were going to put it. Because I know we had talked about, like, oh, is this an expansion? What are you doing? And I'm like, well, it's your list. Do whatever you want. But
it could kind of be both. You know, just depends on how you know.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Okay, cool. My number 2 is Hike Busters. Project Vril. Now, this game I actually was surprised was a 2020 game, just because the year's been so long. But this is easily Mythic Games' best game, in my opinion. Better than Joan of Arc, better than Super Fantasy Brawl. Solomon Kane will eventually come out, 20 years later. But this one just has such a level of badassery to it that it makes you feel in the thematic nature of the game. You obviously play, it's a cooperative game. You play as one of the just a member of some form of militia, either American or Britain or France or whoever, with your own special weapons and special deck of cards that are unique to you as a hero. You set up a scenario, and they even have like massive scenarios, like big epic ones where like the board is just huge, and you are sneaking into the space to complete an objective. And I really do like scenario-based objectives that scale in difficulty. But there is a noise mechanic, so the first half of the game you're trying to sneak around and slowly, kill Nazis that are on the board. But then the more, okay, you open the door and this door is heavier, and how you open it, and noise gradually increases until it hits the alarm, to when then all hell breaks loose. But some of these heroes are they just feel so cool. In fact, I think the chick to the left on that is she's kind of like an assassin. Like, you can go in and spend a bunch of cards and use your knife that causes no noise and just kill like a whole room of Nazis, and you feel so awesome. And everyone gets a chance to do that. Everyone gets a chance to utilize who they are as players. That now, I will say the Mythic Games, of course, has their rulebook issue. This one actually isn't as bad as it could have been, considering how many mechanics there are in the game. But like the dice system, the movement, the noise, the enemies, how the enemies come in and how they kind of naturally move around. Because they can just walk into a room, and then if they see you, then they become alerted, and then or they become suspicious, and they're like, oh, who the hell is that? Who's that giant guy with the 2 Tommy guns shooting in the air? And then if you do an action, then they can actually become alerted, which will alert everyone else around them. And I mean, you could even like just be like, oh, hey, to hell with it, I don't give a fuck. And then there's a room with a bunch of enemies. You just toss a grenade in there, and then it causes a bunch of noise, but it kills all. This is such a fun game. And with the obviously Kickstarter, you have so many just different heroes. You have a bunch of different scenarios to do that. I mean, it's virtually, unlimited replayability. That this one ended up being my number 2 of the year because it's so much fun to play. So that's my number 2, Reichbusters.
Interesting.
Project Vril.
All right, my number 2 has already been said.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay.
This game is just flat out awesome, like you had said. I like worker placement games anyway, but then when you throw in, there's all those different locations that when you go and you place your chip and worker, you get what you land on. Plus, every location has their own special thing that happens as well. So, like, you go to I think it's the boat arena or whatever you want to call it. You go there, and then the boat moves a spot, and you also get that thing. Or you there's just all these different things that you get as well. So it makes your movements, you're gaining a significant amount of stuff instead of just the thing you're landing on.
Right. And this game only has 4 rounds, right? Yeah, I think there's just 4 rounds in the game.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you start with 1 action and you get 2, 3, then 4 or something.
Yeah, maybe there's 5 rounds. I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
draw the blank.
Yeah, but yeah, and there's so many options. There's so many spots that you can go and get stuff, and and then bringing in the dice to try to do to pass the stunts or whatever to get because you're trying to pass stunts and pass different stuff to make your dials.
Oh yeah.
To increase the dials on your player board, which makes you more powerful and how many dice you can either roll when you're doing an event or or just different odds and ends. There's so many things to do in that game that you and it's well balanced. Every time I've played it so far, it's like there isn't one route to go to just totally smash people.
Yeah.
And using the judge, the turtle, the judge, to try to get the extra benefit from doing stuff with him and and everything. It was just, and it didn't hurt that the production is as good as it is. But when you get the deluxe version, just the huge coffin box and all that stuff just packed to the gills with everything. It's a wonderful game, and it's it looks like it'll be one that I know I'll keep playing for a long time, just because it's a hit around here.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, it's actually one of the games that I am currently getting my miniatures painted for.
That's awesome.
So, very excited to see what those look like. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually forgot even about the stunts that you're trying to do. That's a big portion of the game.
Right.
And then the different dials. Yeah, you're right. I think it is completely balanced. Is like I think by the end of the game, I ended up fighting a lot more, and I ended up winning that particular game, but it wasn't by a lot. And but you also get points if you participate.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, okay, well, I hit it a couple times. Like, so your tokens go over there, and that's end game points. So it's not just like, oh, a race to see who kills it. You do get a benefit if you kill it. However, you can participate, and I think the monsters are all unique too, and you can change the difficulty of the game by adding in certain epic monsters. So yeah, this is a phenomenal game.
It is for sure.
And my number one game of 2020. Do you have any guesses?
I was sitting here trying to think, and I just can't. Is it a Kickstarter?
No.
No,
actually. Huh? No.
I have no idea. I'm going to reveal
it. Yep. Go ahead.
Go. Why didn't it go?
Oh, there
we go.
And Season 0.
Interesting.
And we're currently going through Season 1, which is still relatively pandemic, but with a little twist. Pandemic Legacy Season 2, which I thought was better than Season 1, it did kind of flip it on its head, and it's just like, yeah, this is still kind of pandemic, but a little different. This one, it is so freaking good. Like the Cold War theme, they could not have done a better job with. The mechanisms in this game have almost nothing to do with pandemic. Like if I took that name off and just called it something else, I'm like, oh, okay, here's what we're playing. You'd be like, oh, this is a whole new game. Like the map layout, the actions that you do, who you are as a player. Virtually, you start out with nothing. I mean, you have your different. I'm also going to try and be extremely spoil-free talking about this, which makes it a little hard to talk about because why it's my number one. But the fact that it has that same feel of pandemic. Like if you've played any of the other games, you'd be like, okay, I see the similarities. But for them to utilize this as a shocker as well, because you expected Season 3 it to progress the story of Season 1 and 2, but it's a prequel, being Season 0, of course, and for it to feel so radically different. Like, unlike their other spin-offs, like Rising Tides, which was horrible, or Reign of Cthulhu, which is still good, but like they're able to utilize these pandemic themes and make them still different but familiar. Without going into spoilers, just this game plays so different than the others, and every game that we have played has been extremely stressful, but we were able to manipulate the game in a way that it truly feels like a legacy game, instead of kind of like right now with Season 1, you and I are going through it, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you have the beats, but there's still, it almost feels like they were testing the waters to see if it was going to succeed. And then they felt like, oh, well, we did such a great job with that. We have the liberties to really tell a story and make it truly legacy. By far the best experience that I've had this year with this as a campaign. I am very excited to continue the legacy series with season 1, 2, and then I'll easily do this one again. Yeah, it's just, for me, this ended up being the best game of the year. So with that, I can't talk about it anymore because I will have to go into spoilers. But Pandemic Legacy Season 0 was my best game of 2020.
All right. You know what mine is?
Is it Lost Ruins of Arnak?
Yep.
Ha I know you so well. Yeah. It also didn't help that you messaged me like you had like a really aggressive sweat. You sent me like a picture and you're like, this game is so fucking good, man.
Yeah,
like, I was like, why did
it
you
is.
send me that?
Before I knew what it was, I think I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about it and talking about how awesome it was, and then that's what made me look for it. And it was pre-orders were sold out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a hold of a local game store, and he had one pre-ordered, so I went on ahead and claimed it and stuff, and got it.
I probably forgot that I was for some other guy, and then the guy shows up and he's like, "Where's my game?"
Oh, well, no, Chad wanted it, but I beat Chad to it. So,
nice.
But now he owns it too. So
yeah,
we played this over Zoom a few days ago.
Really? Oh, how'd that go?
It worked. It made it a little bit longer. Like, we used my board. Like, I set my computer up weird, so it was aiming the videos down on the deal, and I had my board set up and he had his set up, and then whenever I would draw a tile or whatever, he would search for it and put it on his board just so he could kind of see it, and he would place my worker on his board where I went, and I'd place on his just to kind of keep track of where everybody was at. It worked. Wow. I trashed him, but yeah, this game has so many cool decisions, and the deck building is good. And when you sit there and you think about, oh, this game only has 5 rounds, and I only have 2 workers, you know, so it's like, how in the hell is this game not going to be over in like 10 minutes, you know? Yeah. But
right.
you have to really the first round is not going to be as long, you know. It's a little bit of a shorter round, but then as you get going and you start getting an engine, and as you explore certain things, when you go out into those faraway zones and explore, you don't have to pay those compasses again to go to those places again. Yeah. So that saves you time. The very first time I played that wrong. And I was like, how in the hell are we ever going to get out there and do this stuff? But
oh yeah. See, the first time we played it, they weren't even spinning compasses. So I did 2 things and I had passed, and then I'm like, how are they still going? Fuck this game. If you go first, you're screwed. And then they go, and I was like, wait a minute, are you guys spinning compasses? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, no wonder you guys kept doing shit.
But yeah, it's a really neat one. And then they also, the player aids in this game are very helpful as well. That was another cool thing. It's not a super complex game, but just having some nice player aids to kind of, you know, guide you in kind of some of the symbols and stuff like that pop up.
Yeah.
I like it because it's not just worker placement. Like, you can spend resources to do a lot of different stuff. You can do it to work up the research track, and that's kind of a neat little thing where you're moving your magnifying glass in your book up different levels, and you get advantages for doing that. And your book can never go higher than your magnifying glass, so you're kind of going.
But what they did, which I thought was amazing, is all the mechanics they gave a thematic reason for.
Right.
Like, well, why can't I move my research track or my notebook up higher? And it's like, well, you haven't explored anything. Like, your magnifying glass, you see it, and then you jot it down. In terms of like the artifact, it's kind of like, yeah, you found it when you went digging, you know, because you spend exploration tokens to get those. So yeah, you get to use it then, but in the future, you have to actually kind of understand it to keep using it, which makes deck building games so much more thematic. I mean, that's one of the reasons Tyrants of the Underdark, you know, sold for me, because it's like, well, why don't I get my people back? Well, thematically, they're off doing a mission that you did.
Right.
Yes, I very much enjoyed that they incorporated that into the game.
Well, and then I'm excited because the solo mode's pretty good, and then having the solo campaign that they're getting ready to come out with and stuff. It's just it's going to be pretty neat, I think. With stuff that they have coming out for it, and it just came out of nowhere too. That's the funny thing. It kind of makes me want to try more of their thematic games. Like what's that one?
Dungeon Pets, Dungeon
Sanctum.
Lords.
Well, there's that Sanctum that
Sanctum
it's supposed to be like Diablo.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'd play it, I'd give it a shot, but yeah, it didn't grab me as much as this one did.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, this theme is not touched on a whole lot.
No.
And you would think it is with everyone's love for Indiana Jones and things like that it would be, but no, not really. And yeah, they hit the nail on the head. And this game is just gobsmacking gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like setting it up, you're just like, oh man, this is so pretty. So, and CGE does that. Like, I mean, all their games, I think, are, well, besides Adrenaline doesn't really have any art. But Dungeon Lords and Dungeon Pets are gorgeous to look at. Alchemist is a blast too. So yeah, I think they could do one expansion, not counting the solo thing. I think they could do one more that add more tiles or another section of the map, maybe of the island. I think they could support this game one, maybe two times, just to give a little more variety.
Well, and try the back side of the board too, because that
the back
changes.
side of the board, that's true.
That was a neat thing.
But yeah, in terms of like the items or the artifacts, I mean, this game is so good. I just want more of that, just so you just have more to do.
They need to do more with this game than they did with Adrenaline.
Yeah, that's true. Their weird ass team DLC expansion and then the solo thing, which I still haven't tried. Yeah.
This one's got a lot of buzz for them though. So they
Yeah, they don't really support their games too much. They're kind of like, hey, here's a very solid game. Oh, you want more? How about here's another solid game? And it's like, no, yes, but no, I want more of the other game that I like.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we want more, but it's just like, maybe just keep it as good as it is and we can still enjoy it. So yeah, awesome year. 2020 ended up being, well, in terms of gaming, phenomenal. I mean, this was actually surprisingly difficult to choose over the course. I mean, and as with every year, it's always crunch time for me to record, to get these games played, recorded, and uploaded. So every game that is on my list either has a run through or will have a run through after this is posted, in terms of just how I schedule it. So check them out, check those videos out, check our thoughts on them. Obviously, if you see this, and then you're going to know that the discussion, we thought pretty highly of them. But other than that, stay safe. 2020, yeah, it's not over. 2021 is right around the corner, but stay healthy, stay safe. And other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.